That's an incredible story, and if you don't believe in miracles, this next story might just change your mind. When stroke left Richard Marsh completely paralysed, doctors came horrifyingly close to switching off his life support. What they didn't realise is that he could hear every single word they were saying.
I didn't feel good. I just couldn't put my thumb on it, but it just didn't feel right.
Richard Marsh didn't know it yet, but he was in the throes of a massive stroke when he called his wife for help.
His words were all jumbled. So I said, I'm coming home. Slammed the phone down, went running out of the office.
By the time the former policeman arrived at his local hospital in Napa, California, he was in seriously bad shape.
He was unable to speak, he was unable to move, and in fact, he was unable to take care of his airways.
When I woke up, it was really more than I could comprehend, because I was laying there totally paralyzed with a breathing machine breathing for me and tubes in my arms.
Richard may have woken up, but no one in the room could see that.
When I looked at him in the hospital that first night, lying in the bed, not moving, eyes closed, I thought, this is the end.
Fully conscious of everything around him but unable to communicate, confusion set in.
In my mind, I didn't feel like I was dying because I felt normal. You know, I knew I couldn't move. I knew something serious was going on, but I didn't know what was going on.
I lovingly gave him permission to leave if that's what he had to do.
My reaction to her giving permission to die was, I guess I'm dying. You know, I hadn't thought about that. And so I thought, well, now it all makes sense. I guess I'm dying.
But what doctors hadn't quite worked out yet was Richard was being held captive in his own body by a rare, incurable condition.
Locked-in syndrome is a very devastating type of stroke that affects a main artery that takes blood to the back portion of the brain and the lower portion of the brain. The patient is completely unable to move, but uniquely can move their eye.
There was two doctors standing at the end of the bed, and Lily, and they were discussing the fact that they believed I had a 2% chance of survival, and if I did survive, I'd be a vegetable. They recommended that she seriously consider removing the life support.
We left the door open, of course, that we can continue supporting Richard and hope for really a miracle to happen.
And then I looked at him. This guy was totally paralyzed, and I saw his head go like this. And his head wasn't really moving, so I saw like his spirit saying no. That was, okay, I guess we're not gonna do it.
3 days later, Richard's bleak prognosis changed dramatically in the blink of an eye.
A neurologist came in the room and he said, well, has anybody checked to see if he's in there? So he walked over to me and he said, and this is the first time anybody has talked to me, he said, Richard, if you can hear me and understand me, blink once. So I blinked once and he says, he's there. And that's when they knew. To find out that, that someone actually knew I was in there, and to be able to have them go and tell my family, it was a huge relief.
And so began many months of intense physical rehab, resulting in a recovery that's left doctors stunned.
Good to see you, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
So 60% of patients die from this condition within a short time. A very small percentage of patients recover enough to be able to feed themselves, to maybe stand up and walk, but nothing like the gentleman we're talking about today.
4 months later, Richard walked out of hospital and began slowly rebuilding his life. Now, 5 years on, he's 95% recovered and living every moment.
Here is a man who said no to death and no to disability. He wanted to live, and he's living.
I just want people to know that there's still hope. You know, locked-in syndrome isn't a death sentence.
What an amazing story and such a miracle. And
if someone hadn't just, like, they just had to ask him, you know, just
Literally saved by the blink of an eye.
But
It's
you can
incredible.
imagine all the doctors and medical professionals and organ donation people who are watching that, and that is, of course,
On the
what
flip
everybody
side,
hopes
yeah.
for. And it's a little bit like the miracle person that becomes pregnant naturally at 48. And everyone else thinks that that might happen to them as well. And it just, I can't think of anything more heartbreaking, because that's everybody's fear when they have to turn off the life support, I would imagine, that they're still in there.
Locked-in syndrome. There's an amazing book and movie, Darwin Bell and the Butterfly, which is
Yeah,
just...
right.
It describes what it's like to be locked in, and
You couldn't imagine the terror. Oh, my God.
But Richard has also released a book this month about his amazing recovery, and all the details are on our website. If you go to the Sites We Like page, you'll see it there.